So I want to talk about this really amazing concept. People oftentimes, especially in the church, will talk about how you need to let go of bitterness, how you need to heal, how you need to be spiritually revived or vibrant, how you need to thrive in the Lord, and how you can rise on wings of eagles. And it's like, okay, so how do you do that? How do you heal from a deep hurt? How do you get over burnout? How do you get where you care again, where you seeking God again, where you are 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 passionate about God again? How do you get to that point of just spiritual health and just that you're that goodness? How do you get back to that place? Well, I was reading in Psalm chapter 1, which is probably my least favorite of the Psalms, and I can't believe it, but I found the answer. It says, how happy is the one who, this is the CSB, how happy is the one who does not walk in the advice of the wicked, or stand on the pathway with sinners, or sit in the company of mockers. Instead, his delight is in the Lord's instruction, and he meditates on it day and night. He is like a tree planted beside flowing streams, that bears its fruit in its season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever he does prospers. So what he's talking about here is how can you possibly be, feel revived and rejuvenated and spiritually alive, especially when you're going through bad things. So let me just start at the beginning, because I'm really excited about this. Let me just start at the beginning. We'll start at verse 1. He says, how happy is the one who does not walk in the advice of the wicked, or stand on the pathway with sinners, or sit in the company of mockers. So what you're expecting him to say, you expect him to say, you expect him to say, instead doesn't do these things. So how happy is the person who instead of doing this doesn't do it? Instead of walking in the advice of the wicked, they don't walk in the advice of the wicked. And you just kind of expect for him to leave it there, but that's not what he says. Verse 2, he goes on to say, instead of walking in the advice of the wicked, or standing in the pathway of sinners, or sitting in the company of mockers, instead of doing those things, his delight is in the Lord, in the Lord's instruction, and he meditates on it day and night. So instead of not doing the bad thing, instead of that, his mind is stayed or fixed on God. So we're not talking about being perfect, right? We're talking about making an effort. We're talking about seeking God. We're not really talking about never doing anything else but praying and reading the Bible. But we're talking about the dominant focus of your life is God, not yourself, not your pleasures, not your happiness. I remember there was a time in my life where I literally made the conscious decision to live for pleasure, to live for things that satisfied. So there's a few things that you can do to keep your mind stayed on God. There's obviously prayer. There's obviously reading the Bible. There's obviously worship. But more so than that, it's an intentional focus on God. So how do you heal from hurt? How do you stay where you enjoy God? Where going to church isn't a drag, where you can be healthy, where you can rise on wings like eagles, all those things that people talk about. How do you get there? By having your delight in the Lord's instruction and meditating on it day and night. So then we get to verse 3, and it says, he is like a tree planted beside flowing streams, that bears its fruit in its season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever he does prospers. So this is how you grow, by staying fixated on God. This is how you overcome hurts. This is how you stay spiritually strong, or get spiritually strong again. It's not about all the to-do lists. It's about God. It's all about God. And Paul talks about it in terms that makes it sound like this. When you are being crushed emotionally, you just seek after God, and he just does this miracle, this supernatural thing in your heart and in your life and in your mind. So it doesn't say that the person doesn't go through struggles. Okay, it says he is like a tree planted that bears its fruit in its season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever he does prospers. So yes, that's still going through those things, but being firm, right? So you're still struggling, you're still having doubts, you're still having problems, and you still suffer in life, but your root is still in God, and you nourish that, and you feed it, and even when you're pruned, and even when there's times of drought, you are plugged into God. You're not plugged into how you feel or all these different things. You're plugged into God, and it's not being a Christian. We're not talking about whether the psalmist is a Christian. That's not it. You can be a Christian and be miserable. We're not talking about going to church. We're not talking about serving enough people, or staying in your house, or maybe just having nothing but leisure time. We're not talking about having you time or reading spiritual books. We're talking about you seeking after God in the now and what that produces. You focus on God, and your actions will follow after. When you focus on God and you change what you're thinking about and what you are making a priority in your life, your actions will follow afterwards. So we get excited or forlorn. When instead of that, what we need to do is make our lives revolve around God and our thoughts be fixated on God. So if you're going through a hard time, you don't know how to cope through it, you don't know how to get through it, you don't know how to be healthy again, you don't know how to heal, how to let go of hurt, how to be spiritually mature, it's this simple. It's not simply not doing bad things. It's being fixed on God, having your thoughts fixed on God. You're going through problems, you're going through health problems, you're going through struggles. You are fixed on God. And that is what makes a difference. That's what gives you your sustenance and your strength. That's what helps you to not be a tree that is losing its leaves.